I am super excited to bring you guys today's build. If you've ever wanted to be an up-close melee fighter dragon who's breathing fire all over your enemies, this is the build for you. At the end of the day, we're going to have high sustained damage both with magic and weapons attack, and strong defenses on top of it. So let's jump into it. Before launching in the build, I gotta start by saying thank you. I asked you guys to help me break through that 14K subscriber mark, and you guys did so with flying colors. And I want to do it again through the 15K mark. So if you guys want to help me on that journey, please hit the subscribe button, and if you feel like it, the notification too. All right, my friends, with that out of the way, let's jump into the build. Beginning with the Lineage. The Lineage is super important with this build, both mechanically and flavorly. We are going to be a Red Chromatic Dragonborn, getting us into that fire-breathing dragon flavor we're going for, and it really begins that by giving us a fire breath weapon attack. We want to be doing a ton of these. This begins us on that journey, but it also does something you might not think of. One of our weaknesses is going to be people who have fire resistance or fire immunity. Now, most of those creatures are going to do some sort of fire damage themselves. So by being a chromatic dragonborn, we can make ourselves immune to fire damage when we face one of those creatures, making it more of an even playing field instead of it being just a flat weakness for us. I think that's a pretty cool synergy. Well, what about our leveling structure? We're going to be going 3 levels into Bladesinger Wizard. We're then going to jump into the Artillerist Artificer for 3 levels, and then we're going back into Bladesinger for the rest of our career. This kind of shows us what our stats are going to be. We're going to have an equal need for dexterity and intelligence. Dexterity helps us with AC as well as our attacks, and then intelligence helps us with our spells. Whatever one you focus more on, the other one's going to be the secondary. Then we have Constitution as our tertiary, and finally we have Wisdom that we put any remaining points in order to buffer our wisdom saves. And speaking of those wisdom saves, it's a big reason why we're going into Wizard level 1. You might be saying, well, isn't Artificer better for level 1 because you get those Constitution saves which help you with your concentration checks? And the answer is normally yes, but we're going Bladesinger, and Bladesinger already allows us to add our intelligence modifier to our concentration saves, which buffers that need a lot, so I really want to cover our otherwise big weakness, which would be wisdom saves. I went Wizard first for those reasons. Along with Wizard 1, we get to pick up our cantrips and first level spells. A first level spell I'm picking up here that I normally wouldn't is Burning Hands, because it's just another fire breath weapon attack once we reflavor it. As for our cantrips, we're going to be going Green Flame Blade. Synergizes really well with what Bladesingers already do and matches our flavor, so I'm happy with that. And then Firebolt is just kind of like a long-ranged damage burst, and I kind of just like that. The imagery of us just pressurizing our lungs and boom, firing a firebolt out of our mouth. I think it's cool. So we're picking it up here. Level 2 is really where things begin for us, because now we can actually be melee, so we can run in there and start doing what we want to be doing, which is using our breath weapon attack and then using Burning Hands. And so we're breathing this fire everywhere and then slashing people with probably our rapier, let's be honest, but if you wanted to do something a little bit more flavorful, feel free. And of course, mixing that with our Green Flame Blade. That's the basics of what we're doing, and everything's going to be compounding off of that. And that really begins at level 3, where we get one of our signature spells, Dragon's Breath. Dragon's Breath, when combined with our familiar, probably like a reflavored owl to be a little red dragon. If we cast Dragon's Breath on it, it gets to use its action to use Dragon's Breath. So now we can run up, we can smack someone or breathe fire on them, and then our little guy can also breathe fire on them. So now we're getting multiple fire breaths per turn. That's just going to continue compounding as we go into Artificer. First level Artificer honestly isn't giving us much. It's very much so an investment level. We can pick up some spells we could already have here, like Absorb Elements, for example, so it just expands our spell list a bit. It really doesn't do anything for our AC or our saves or anything along those lines, but that changes at level 2, where we get Infusions. Infusions are big for this build. We can go Enhanced Defense, give us even crazier AC, which we're going to have crazy AC being a Bladesinger, or we can go Enhanced Weapon to make our attacks more accurate and deal more damage, or we can go with Mind Sharpener for struggling with our concentration checks. So this would basically nullify any concentration checks that we have in between Bladesinging and Mind Sharpener. Personally, I'm probably going Enhanced Defense and Mind Sharpener. The reason why is that we're not going to be using our weapon as often as most Bladesingers. 1, we're getting extra attack later than they normally do, and 2, we're using breath weapon attacks in lieu of some of those attacks, and so for those reasons, I'm going to say no to Enhanced Weapon, even though I do think it has a place. But really, while we're here, comes in at level 3, we become an Artillerist. An Artillerist gives us the Flamethrower. So now we have a familiar who can breathe fire, we have a Protector Cannon who can breathe fire, we can breathe fire, and we can attack up close. I love how all that comes together. As for our action economy, it can be a bit tricky, because it's an action to create the Flamethrower, and it's an action to turn on our familiar's fire breath, and then we want to make sure we're doing things like attacking and whatnot. So balancing out your action economy is going to be important with this build. So a lot of times I think you're going to be setting up one or the other, either your familiar or your protector cannon. But in particular combats, you might set them up both if you feel like the 2 action investment is worth it. And with that, we're done with Artificer. We're going back into Bladesinger. As we go up in Bladesinger, the main thing is new spells. Fireball at our level 8 is going to be fantastic, and it represents a contrast to our Dragon's Breath, because our Dragon's Breath is continual damage, that's burst damage. Fireball is particularly good because it doesn't require concentration when our Dragon Breath does, and so we can actually combine the two, throwing fireballs when they're particularly juicy and then mixing in Dragon Breath for sustained damage. But we honestly don't even need fireballs, because the more we level up, the more we can upscale our Dragon's Breath, and it upscales fantastically because it gets used over and over and over again, so it's pretty efficient upscaling. Once we hit level 9, Wizard 6, we get our extra attack, and that's a pretty big deal because now we can mix a green flame blade with the Dragon's Breath. So even though we are like this upfront melee attacker, we just have really consistent small AoE blasts, so we can really take care of crowds in a cool, unique way, in a way that's different than any other feeling D&D character I've built, which is just kind of like these mini blasts and these contained areas and just absolutely annihilate these small creatures. I think that's pretty cool. And let's just pretend for a second that we have everything set up. All right, now we can green flame blade, then we can use our Dragon Breath attack, then we can bonus action our flamethrower attack, then our familiar can use their Dragon Breath attack. That's a lot of little bursts of AoE and really fun. So let's break it down a bit. Our AC is going to be fantastically high because we're a Bladesinger. Then we have proficiency and wisdom saves to cover that weakness. We have great concentration checks. We're going to be fast and mobile, hit like a truck. So where's our weakness? Well, the main weakness that stands out to me has been touched on already: fire resistance or fire immunity. So how do we deal with that? You might be thinking we take the elemental adept feat to ignore fire resistance, right? Well, that only works with spells, but a lot of what we're doing aren't spells. So that means that it's going to be less effective than you might think. I think the answer here is actually to reflavor it a little bit. We make our fire so intensely hot that it becomes lightning, a la Avatar. Hey, it worked for them, it works for us. So when we cast Dragon Breath on our familiar, it can use lightning damage. Or maybe we make a force ballista and it's just a contained lightning blast that does force damage. It's fine. I think that would be a good way of going about of handling that weakness. Overall, this was a really fun build to build, and I would love to hear what you guys would do with a similar concept. Really getting into that flavor. I love how dragons can breathe fire, yet they still love to get up close and tangle. I want to take that flavor and bottle it and give it to you guys. What would you do given the same character prompts? As always, I'm open to any challenges you guys throw my way, and other than that, I hope you have yourselves an incredible day, and I'll catch you on the next one. See you then.